Happy Trans Rights Readathon, friends! This year, from March 21st to 31st, people will be reading, hopefully, lots of books by trans and non-binary authors and books featuring trans and non-binary characters, and I will be participating for the third time. This year for the readathon, for every trans or non-binary book that I read between the 21st and 31st, I will be donating $5 per book to Transmission, which is an organization based in Asheville, serving the Carolinas and serving trans people in our communities. I am going to go through all of these books. I will post more up-to-date reading updates over on my TikTok page throughout the week. So if you want to check them out there, you're more than welcome. Or if you want to use this video to build your TBR, hopefully I have something you will love. Now, hi buddy. I will say I had to build this stack so it would stay upright. So they're not in the most cohesive order, but I think we'll be okay. Hi. The first is Making Love with the Land by Joshua Whitehead. This is a collection of essays from a two-spirit author who is talking about what it looks like as a two-spirit individual to have a connection with the ancestral land. Joshua Whitehead has some really interesting other titles that I'm hoping to get to this year. This is the part I didn't think about. Don't want to put the books on the ground. We'll just do a little stack behind and hope that works. The next is the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers. The first book is A Psalm for the Wild Built. The second book is A Prayer for the Crowned Shy. And these are really beautiful speculative fiction novellas with like pretty seriously cozy elements. And they do feature gender expansive characters. I do not know the gender of the author, but at least in my copy of A Psalm for the Wild Built, Becky does use she, her pronouns, but that could be different. And I still have seen these included in Trans Rights Readathon books, and I do think they're a great quick read if you're trying to get through a lot of books to make a lot of donations this week. In the past, I have read Pet by Akwe Emezi as a Trans Rights Readathon book, and so this year I'm hoping to read Bitter. I misspoke in a prior video. Bitter is actually about the mother of the main character in Pet. But I'm very, very excited to check this out, and this will probably be a priority read for me next week. I actually kind of jumped ahead and already read The Seep by Hannah Porter, which does feature a trans main character. I read this during my 24-hour readathon, and it is about an alien invasion called the Seep that makes people kind of like blissful and unquestioning, and it is very sneaky and like seductive as an alien invasion. I thought this was really, really interesting. I have picked up Zenobia July, which is a young adult fiction book from my library. And this is about Zenobia, who is a trans girl with a particular skill for hacking, who is trying to be less online and more in person as she starts at her new school. Lisa Bunker also wrote Felix YZ, which has a lot of praise and awards, so I'm very excited to check this book out. I haven't seen it on other Trans Rights Readathon lists in the past, so I'm really excited to be able to read it and hopefully recommend it to you. I don't know about y'all, but Iron Widow by Jiran Zhao is currently all over my TBR, or my For You page, so I'm very excited to check it out. Their author bio does use they, them pronouns, so I am under the impression that this book would be considered on the up and up for Trans Rights Readathon. My approach, because I don't want to like apply a gender to an author, is if they definitely use like gender expansive pronouns, I feel like that counts unless I have information otherwise. So I'm excited to read Iron Widow. I'll be honest, I don't know that I'll get to this one during the readathon because it is denser and I want to get through a lot of books during the readathon, but I do foresee myself reading this in the next month or two. Before I tell you about Manhunt, I just need to tell you, normally I hate these little flaps on the side of the front of a book, but the one on this is "The End of the World is Nuts." And I don't know, I'll post a picture of the title cover. This is exactly what you think it is. It is about harvesting, a word I probably can't say on YouTube. I have heard some relatively conflicting reviews on this, but I think I'm going to give it a try. I checked this out from my library, so I'm very eager to read this. If I'm in my library and I see a book with the Stonewall Book Award on the front, I generally am inclined to go ahead and pick it up and check it out. So I'm excited to read Too Bright to See, which is a story about 11-year-old Bug. And as Bug begins to untangle the mystery of a new ghost that she meets before middle school, she learns a new truth. It's the answer to a question of identity one Bug never even thought to ask. So I'm very excited to read this. I think having more middle grades books featuring trans or non-binary youth would be awesome. So I will definitely be reading this during the readathon. Becky Chambers' book, and this is Long Way to a Small Lonely Planet. I have not read this. I know very little about it, except for a lot of people who I share a reading taste with have really enjoyed it. And I bought this from a bookstore where the owner said that they were really confident I would love it. I don't know why I've never picked it up. I think it's because by and large I don't really like space books, but I'm open to this one. This is another that I probably won't get to during the readathon, but I will be reading soon, and that is Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chapeko. The author is a non-binary Chinese and Filipino writer, and I've heard that there's polyamory in here, which I'm very excited to read. And there's vampires, and I've never been unhappy reading a vampire book. So I will be reading this, but not during the readathon, like 10 days, only because I want to maximize the quantity of books I can read so I can donate more money. I also have Nevada by Imogen Binney. I have checked this out. This is now my second year in a row checking it out during the Trans Rights Readathon from my library. I just didn't get to it last year, but it is about Maria Griffiths, who is a 30-year-old trans woman who ends up going on kind of a wonky road trip and meeting a trans man. And so I really want to read this year. A lot of my friends have recommended it, and I love being able to read books by like a character in their 30s who is not very, very young. So this is on my list. The next is Libertad by Bessie Flores Zaldivar, and this is set in Honduras. I have an aunt from Honduras and have spent a lot of time like with her talking about like where she's from and her culture, and so I think that is extra cool. And this bit of the summary makes me think I will really like it. As Libertad faces the political and social corruption around her, unbearable homophobia at home and at school, and online threats in response to her poems, she begins dreaming of a future where she doesn't have to hide who she is, where she doesn't have to worry about someone she loves losing their life just for speaking up. The ultimate tragedy strikes, and leaving her family and friends, plus the only home she's ever known, might be her only option. So I'm going to try to read this during the readathon, but if I don't, it'll be before I have to return this to the library. I also have How Far the Light Reaches, A Life in 10 Sea Creatures, and so this kind of explores the existence of different sea creatures, but has commentary around like identity and sexuality. So I've only heard good things. I think I'm going to have to be in the right mood for this, but I'm very interested. I don't know how I have not yet read A Light from Uncommon Stars because it sounds amazing. The premise of this book is that there is a very accomplished violinist who makes a deal with like a demon or a devil or something that she will turn over the souls of a certain number of magicians, and she has completed all but one and has her eyes set on the final person, and then it gets complicated. So I'm very, very excited to read this. Again, if I don't read it during like the 10 days of the readathon, I will be reading this very soon. All right, the next is The Witch King. I picked up a copy of this from McKay's because I tried to get this last year for the readathon, and the wait list at my library was very, very long. But let me read you the back of this and tell me that you don't also want to pick it up. Fire is the only magic I know. It's the only thing that came naturally to me when I was forbidden from learning anything else. And what good would a fire do me now, besides making everything worse? And then on the inside cover, it says, Wyatt would give anything to forget where he came from, but a kingdom demands its king. I'm excited. I believe that the main character is trans. I can't wait to read this. Very, very much looking forward to it. I also have Detransition Baby. I think what I need to do is read a chapter of this and decide if it's my jam or not. But Detransition Baby follows 3 women kind of at their intersections of womanhood. We have Reese, who is a trans woman who is in this pattern of sleeping with married men. Ames thought detransitioning to live as a man would make his life easier, but it cost him his relationship with Reese. And then I think there's another character, but she's not in the inside cover. Basically, I've heard a lot of people read this, a lot of people recommend it, and I at least want to explore and see if it's a good fit for me. This is getting a little sketchy, to be honest. But now we are moving into the graphic novel portion of my recommendations. And part of the reason I requested so many graphic novels is because I know I can typically read a graphic novel in one sitting, and it will help me donate more money at the end of the readathon. And I also thought it was about time that I read Genderqueer. While I'm aware that this is like a memoir graphic novel, and that it is very, very frequently banned, I have not read it on my own, and so I'm excited to do so. Also, it is very interesting because all these people trying to ban it are like, there's nudity, and the only nudity I'm seeing flipping through this is literally someone at a doctor's office. I feel like they need to chill the fuck out a little bit. I also have Home Buddy, a graphic novel about a non-binary person. I am very excited in particular because this graphic novel has like a very limited color palette. It's a lot of like different shades of purple, and that makes it much easier for my brain to read because I'm pretty new to reading graphic novels, so I'm very, very eager to read this. Also, on the back, it's very cute. I don't know how this comes into the story, but there's like a pride parade where everyone is wearing houses. I can't wait to find out what that's about. I also have Welcome to St. Hell. This is a YA graphic novel about a trans teen's misadventures, and I am excited. I think it is going to be interesting, and it looks very different from what I have read before, like a little edgier. So I'll check it out. And the last graphic memoir is Spellbound by Bishak Som. I hope that's right. But this looks very interesting, and it is a story about her own exploration, their own exploration, her own exploration of gender, and like an autobiographical graphic novel. So I'm very curious to check this out. And then I do have one comic. This is the volume 2. I think I have volume 1 on my way, or on its way here. But this is about Des, who is an indigenous two-spirit person, and their adventure. The first book is Surviving the City, and so I think that's on its way here. And then I picked up 47,000 Beads, which is a indigenous children's picture book featuring a two-spirit character. So I'm very excited to check that out. And I will also put a couple of other children's picture books that feature trans or non-binary characters that I've already read in preparation for the readathon over here. In my personal use of the library, when I'm reading picture books. It is just to be able to recommend them, and so I do try to read and return them within 48 hours so that they can be in the hands of children who are the audience for them. But I did just pick this up today, and I will probably bring it back within 48 hours. But I hope that was helpful. If you haven't found enough books for the readathon yet, I don't know what you're doing, but let me know if you need help or if you're looking for something in particular. And again, if you want to follow my updates throughout the readathon in real time, you can check me out on other platforms. This is a stack of books that are